Hello and welcome to another questionable review where today we are going to be reviewing A Girlfriends by Holly Bourne. This is her new book. It's an adult novel. It centers around a lady called Fern whose old friend Jessica turns back up in her life, and the two of them had dramatically broken up, and Jessica wants to rekindle the relationship and Fern isn't sure that she's ready for that. She wants to know if Jessica has changed as a person before she can trust her like that. However, the two have this unbreakable bond, as some girls do, but the friendship ends up developing anyway. Drama ensues. I'm going to be talking about spoilers in this review as well, so if you've not read the book yet and that is something that you want to do, you should probably fuck off. The first thing you want to know about this book is that Fern is very much a Holly Bourne protagonist. She's a little bit negative, she's a little bit cynical, she's very neurotic, and she's obsessed with marriage. Listen, I know you're not supposed to judge an author based on what they write, because obviously people can write whatever, right? I mean, I doubt Tolkien had actually seen a Hobbit in his lifetime, and if he did, I'm jealous. There's certain types of Holly Bourne protagonists that I feel like must be close to her personal character simply because she writes them so much, and these cynical women who deep down just want to be loved by one man forever seem to be those type of characters for me. And I'm not accusing Holly Bourne of being this type of woman, I'm not. It's just that is the impression I have gotten of her from reading her books. I've said in the past that I don't enjoy these types of protagonists. When Holly writes these negative, cynical protagonists, she sometimes goes a little bit too far. And again, I don't know if she's basing this off herself or whatever, but sometimes it just feels like everything in the book is an opportunity to complain and make it all about themselves and all about how people suck and social media should be banned. I'm about to say she sounds a little bit like a boomer sometimes, but I know she's not. Sometimes it does feel like Holly Bourne blames technology a little bit too much in her books, as if we didn't have social media, then women wouldn't have nearly so many insecurities, etc., etc. But I can assure you that women's insecurities did exist long before Facebook, Holly. Oh, why do I always get into Holly Bourne reviews and start just bashing her personally? She's actually one of my favourite authors. I could not wait to read this, okay? And it was really fucking good. I didn't necessarily not like Fern. She's not too much in the way of the cynicism like some of the Holly Bourne protagonists. She was mostly bearable. She had a reason to act that way as opposed to just being a cynical negative person. She'd kind of had stuff happen to her in her life that made her feel insecure, etc. So that probably made me a bit more sympathetic towards her. I preferred Jessica, the friend, and I think it's just because, if I am being honest, Jessica is a lot more personally relatable to me. The book also switches between when the two were teenagers and when the two are in their 30s. And of course, I generally found the chapters about them in their teenagers to be more interesting, kind of more close to that age, and that's something that I've lived through and can relate to. And that's not to say that the adult bit was not engaging. In fact, it really was. I really enjoyed seeing these two rekindle their friendship. I thought it was really beautiful. Kind of wanted them to be lesbians at the end a little bit, but that's not the way that the story went, unfortunately. The friendship is so compelling. No, it's very, very reminiscent of those very same friendships that you would have when you were a young girl, where it was the two of you were inseparable, you did everything together, you had plans to live together in the future, everything was going to be done in tandem, okay, because the pair of you are soulmates and a boy's dummy shit. I think it's interesting how in the teenage bits we know, because we've been in the future, that Jessica is going to mess it up somehow, but you get the feeling in the adult sections that it is going to be Fern who messes it up this time, because she's not willing to trust Jessica again after cutting her out of her life last time, because as it turns out, Fern has always been jealous of Jessica. She feels like Jessica is a lot more attractive than she is, and she feels like boys are more attracted to her. And so as a result, Fern kind of decides that she has to kick Jessica out of her life in order for herself to have a life, right? And it sounds a little bit ridiculous when you put it like that, and a lot of you will probably be thinking that's not realistic, who would do that? But I've seen it happen in real life, bro. So we can't argue with this. essential central theme of the book is about how like society sees you and how that can affect your female friendship. Fern has always been jealous of Jessica, and that's why she chooses to cut her off. We see that all the other girls, women in the book are also jealous of Jessica, not necessarily because Jessica has done anything, but just because Jessica is like existing in their space and being moderately attractive and confident, so like men notice her. Women don't like that. I don't know, there's this constant thing, this pressure from the patriarchy, right, to be in competition with other women all the time. This book really highlights how, as a result of that, a lot of women can grow up feeling really isolated and alone, and even the closest friends of these women can harbour like resentful feelings towards them for something that's entirely not their fault and is just like their genes and DNA, bro. Recently I read for another video on my channel The Duff by Cody Keplinger, and in that book Bianca comes to learn that even though she feels like she's fat and ugly compared to her friends actually see her in exactly the same way, because everyone's insecure. Very small minority of people really think that they're absolutely gorgeous and have the utmost confidence, okay? And the rest of us are faking it so we make it. The exact same thing happens in this book. We get to the end. Fern discovers not only, you know, that she was never ugly, not even in comparison to Jessica, just never at all. She looks at pictures of herself from when she was a child and realizes that it was her own insecurity that it was making her see herself that way, and also, you know, the way that society and boys and whatnot were treating her, making her see herself that way. Through a conversation with Jessica, see that Jessica was always jealous of Fern, not just because of her looks, etc., but because of how easy it was for her to make friendships with other girls, which is something that Jessica just never really had with somebody else. I think that's really important. I think it's important to remind girls that, you know, we're all on equal footing. We've all got our strengths and weaknesses, and, you know, we're all beautiful in our own way, and somebody is going to appreciate that, whether you're currently the societally acceptable standard of beauty or not. And you know, that societal beauty standard will change in a few years. You might live up to it then. Who gives a shit? Was the fact that being pretty and getting attention from boys can be just as bad as being ignored by them. It makes women feel just as awful, especially in like a teenage environment, because teenage boys have no idea how to treat women, girls, or whatever. As a result, they're just performing this kind of like sexist, patriarchal kind of bullshit in front of all the girls. It makes some girls feel left out. It makes them feel like they'll never be enough, right? It makes them feel like they're never just going to be the girl who boys look at. But for some reason, instead of blaming like the society that gives us these unrealistic beauty standards, like are so impossible for some people to attain, instead of blaming all that bullshit, you know, the girls in this book are blaming Jessica simply for being the standard of pretty that they wish to be. It's just unreasonable, isn't it, mate? It's just stupid. Like, jealousy over how somebody else looks is so fucking ridiculous, because you are never going to look any different, my guy. Like, it's not going to happen for you unless you get entire reconstructive surgery, and that's just so expensive and useless because you're probably pretty peng as you are. The book talks a lot about the internalized male gaze, maybe not in so many words, but a lot of the time. Like, Fern's obsessed with her boyfriend, like, not wanting to marry her. He's been engaged before and it ended badly, and as a result his views on marriage and long-term relationships have skewed, and he doesn't necessarily see that that's something that he wants in his future anymore. And, you know, Fern doesn't like this because she's got this obsession with being picked, right, which I think is personally ridiculous. But I can understand that it's something women probably do struggle with, people probably struggle with. Fern often like reacts to situations, or like she'll sit there on her own and think about the fact that like if she can act right, if she can act like the perfect, the good woman, good girlfriend would act, then somehow somehow her boyfriend Ben will know, and this will somehow convince him that she is the woman that is worthy of his hand in marriage. Girl, Ben is never gonna see you sitting on the couch in your fancy lingerie unless he's in the room. This strange concept that I didn't know that everybody else did. But you do imagine that the man is watching, that the man can always see you, that you have to always perform as, I don't know, like the epitome of womanhood, bro, just in case there's a fucking guy looking through the window or whatever, and they catch you not acting the way that society tells you should act. I said that Fern's got this obsession with being picked, and by that I mean she thought that Jess got picked over her all the time when they were younger, And as a result, she's got like this obsession with her boyfriend choosing to marry her so that she feels like she's been like specially selected by a man. Like she's good enough for a man to want her above any other woman. I found the concept so incredibly silly, I can't lie. The entire book I did just want to shake Fern, but as you know, I do enjoy characters who frustrate me and piss me off a little bit, so that's why I probably enjoyed this book so much. I just wanted to kind of tell her, like, dude, like, Ben has already picked you, like, you're literally living together and you're in a committed, monogamous relationship. There's no difference between that and marriage, and I understand that that's my personal view, but I don't... Maybe I'm immature, bro. Maybe Holly Bourne, having lived maybe up to a decade more than me, can quantify something that I can't, right? But I just cannot fathom leaving a man who I purportedly love just because he doesn't want to get married when it makes no difference. Like, it's exactly the same fucking thing. I don't understand. And the thing that annoys me about it is that in the end, even though Ben didn't want to get married throughout the entire book, just so Fern can get her happy ending, he decides all of a sudden that he does want to get married. Why? I feel bad for Ben in this. I feel bad that Ben had to change his entire belief system just because the story necessitated it. I don't think that was necessary. I think it would have been more impactful for me personally if Fern had learned that she can't force a man to want to marry her if he doesn't want to get married to anyone. Because if it was the other way around and we were reading a book about a man who really wanted his girl to commit and she didn't want to, we'd all be like, oh, bad feminism. She should be able to do what she wants. At the end of this fucking book, Holly Bourne really had me thinking for about 5 seconds that she was gonna have Jessica and Ben have an affair. And I was so mad. I was in the kitchen making a cup of tea and I was like, if Jessica and Ben sleep together, I'm never reading another Holly Bourne book again. And I knew that she wasn't gonna do that to me, bro. But she is such a good writer that she had me doubting her, not only her, but myself. There's not an affair, it's just Fern's insecurities make her think that there might be an affair and it causes a lot of drama, etc. in the climax of the book. However, there is no affair because Holly Bourne is the perfect feminist. She's not, I'm sorry, the perfect feminist does not exist. The perfect nothing exists. You cannot be perfect. Perfection is something that cannot be achieved by humans. She's a really, really good one and she would never, and I knew this in my heart of hearts, make the mistake of having Jessica cheat on Fern like that, bro. It just could not happen. And Holly still be like a role model to me, okay? Luckily she did not. Random note, I don't think Holly Bourne has ever smoked weed in her life. There are a few instances in this book where the characters do smoke weed, and I'm telling you right now, I want whatever the fuck they were smoking, because this girl gets stuck stroking wallpaper for 10 minutes because it's, you know, slightly bumpy. I don't know about you, but I have never done that before when I've had a little... She also uses interchangeably the words joints and blunts, which, you know, anybody who's experienced in these kinds of matters knows that they are not the same thing. Holly, I don't believe you. Either that or you were smoking some strong ass shit, bro. I want some of that. I want to talk here about the hookup and drinking culture discussion that Holly Bourne has throughout the text, especially when talking about the girl's teenage years. And I understand that Holly does make a point at the end of the book to say that, you know, times have changed and that maybe girls and boys aren't receiving the same messages that they were when she was younger, but like that's what she had chosen to write about. But I think the sad thing is, and any of the scenes that took place during the teenage bit, like, are something that, like, I could have lived through myself. That my teenage niece right now, she could be living through that right this second. Is something to be said about the fact that toxic drinking and hookup culture exists and something maybe has to be done about it. I think that, yes, drinking and casual sex have become too much of a norm in our society. Maybe we should take a step back and think about what this is doing to us mentally, physically. A little bit of introspection to come to this conclusion, because when I first started reading about how Fern thought it was weird that all the teenagers were throwing themselves at each other and like shoving their tongues down each other's throat when they barely knew each other, or if they just had drama that day, at first I was like, well, that's just normal, that's just how people interact with each other, especially when there's drink involved. But then as the story went on and more fucked up shit started happening, especially to Jessica, you kind of started to realise that maybe the fact that you think it's such a casual thing is not good. I think Holly Bourne makes a really good point here. I think there are some really good things that she says, some things that she makes points about, like how girls try to like fit in with boys and they go against feminism and make fucking sexist jokes and stuff to be pick-me's. I liked all of that stuff. I thought that was interesting. If you want to know about it in any further detail, you will have to read the book yourself because I've already been going on for quite some time. The main thing I really want to get onto is how this book made me think about the importance of female friendships, which is one of my fucking favourite things to read about of all time, bro. Romance books can fuck off. I literally don't give a shit anymore. I appreciate a good romance in another book. Romances themselves, get wrecked. I would much rather read a story about a fucking intense, dramatic friendship between two women than any romance between a man and a woman. I just can't. There was a big theme of like girls acting like themselves when it's just them because they feel safe and there's no male gaze. This reminder to girls that it's important to spend time in these female only spaces and to kind of recharge yourself. We're not excluding boys, bro. But I had a realization just today that boys also have these safe spaces where they feel like they're away from the women and so they don't have to like do this performative over the top masculinity and shit, bro. Like they have exactly the same experience. It's just that they don't realize that it's the patriarchy making them feel like that, and we do. The fact of the matter is that Jessica and Fern are both at their best when they're together. They're so dynamic, they're so electric. Everyone in the room appreciates their energy and can see how much they love each other, can see how much they bounce off each other and complement each other's personalities. They're both better when they're together, okay? They're soulmates. I love that. That is honestly, when you have a friend like that, you really do feel like you can take over the world. It reminded me a lot of one of my very, very close friends who I've known since college, and anytime I would read about this amazing dynamic that the two of them had together, I would think of this friend. When I'd finished the book, the first thing I did was ask this friend to come and hang out because we haven't seen each other for a while. And I think that this is something that Holly Bourne always does to me. She always inspires me to action. And I think that's so fucking admirable, bro. Like, how many times do you read a book and you feel like you need to go out there and do something about what you've learned from that book? Like, it's all very well and good going, oh, well, now I understand the fucking female psyche better or whatever because I fucking read some pick-up artist book. But it's like, okay, but what are you gonna go and, are you gonna go out there and put these things that you've learned into practice, bro? Like, what? No. So one of my favourite things about Holly Bourne is that there is something about the way she writes. She inspires me to go out there and be a better person, bro. And just like, that's amazing. That's fucking amazing. So if you haven't read Girlfriends by Holly Bourne, I think you definitely should. It was really good. It was just unputdownable, bro, and it's not even like it's particularly action-packed or anything like that. It's just this exploration of this really amazing friendship. I'm sure any woman who has had a girlfriend can relate, okay? And yeah, that's all she wrote. See you later.